East Water Street, Elmira, New York. I am Patricia Lynch, a museum member and volunteer, and I will be speaking with Louise Hildun, who resides at 1502 Sullivan Street, Elmira, New York, and who was a member of the Army WAC Corps.
Women Army Corps.
Women's Army Corps.
Auxiliary Corps.
Auxiliary Corps. Thank you.
And then the Women Army Corps.
Yeah. And Louise is going to share her experiences and memories of that period with us, and also her post-war history. So Louise, could we start when you entered service and tell us something about your age and your circumstances in life then, and whether you enlisted or how you were recruited?
Well, I was married, so I did not join the service to find a man. And I followed my husband for about a year, and I decided I wanted to serve my country. And I enjoyed being with the veterans and military personnel. So I was working at the Eclipse at the time, and some woman there talked me into joining the WACs. And she had her daughter she had her mother take her daughter over so she could join. And so we went for the recruiting, and what happened was she backed out. And I said to my mother, I said, what will I do? She said, you want to join the service, join. I said, I'm in. So then my husband said, you can't join unless I say so. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm already in. He says, well, get a divorce if you're in. I said, that's fine. But we didn't get a divorce. I had every leave that he did overseas, and when he was off on furlough, I got it off too.
He was in what branch of the service?
The Army.
He was also in the Army. I was going to say, I'm looking at your biographical information. When you were in the service, you were then Louise Irene Hildun Blair. So your married name of that first marriage was Blair. So that's your service name. Okay. Well, where were you assigned?
Well, I was assigned, first I went to I went to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia for basic training. Mm-hmm. Then I went to Conway State Teachers College for administrative training. And then I was assigned to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Maryland.
So most of your service, or all of your service, really
Aberdeen
was
Proving Grounds,
at
Maryland.
Aberdeen Proving Grounds.
And there we were a group where we were close to Washington, and we had a lot of inspections and like that. We paraded for the people out of Washington. We were like a model group there.
How large a
we had
WAC
600.
division?
We had 600. They worked 24 hours a day, did everything there.
Now, what age were you when you entered this?
21.
21.
You had to be 21 at that time.
You had to be 21.
You had to be 21 to go in.
Go in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you served all the way through, let me see, from December 42 then you entered. Mm-hmm. And you served through October 45.
Mm-hmm. Then when my husband got discharged from the service, I got discharged.
So he was discharged in 45 too.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what are your memories of the basic training and getting into the WACs, and your feelings about it?
That basic training was something else. We were the second group to get into Fort Oglethorpe. Mm-hmm. We had to wash windows. The train was quite a ways from the barracks, so we'd have to go through the mud, then we'd have to clean off our shoes and things to get back into the barracks. And it was quite an experience. I mean, we were greenhorns, but it was a lot of fun. We used to go into Chattanooga, Tennessee, get a bus to go in there, and there was a place there that said no soldiers or dogs allowed in some of the bars. And
no soldiers
or dogs allowed. Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of good times.
Did you sort of bond as a group with the women?
Yes. You never found such close friends as you did in the service. Mm-hmm. I mean, just because you was uniform didn't mean you were out looking for a man. But we had a lot of good times, the group. They had a lot of activities for us.
Did you retain some of those friendships
Yes.
from the service?
In fact, right now I am one of 40 in the United States that belongs to the National WAC Honor Guard. And I travel throughout the state. I recognize the group in this area, but I go to national conventions all over the United States. In fact, I have my
Now,
hand.
40 is left from that group of 600?
No. This is 40 now. 40 members
40
that serve
members
in the Army. Mm-hmm. We are the National WAC Honor Guard.
You're the Honor Guard.
Mm-hmm. We perform all kinds of ceremonies. In fact, at the parades and like that, I always wear my uniform.
Still wear your uniform.
I brought my hat with me, so.
Did you? What other kind of functions do you attend?
No?
Yeah, as part of this National Honor Guard.
Well, whenever they need somebody, I usually go. And at the conventions like that, we're very active. Do all kinds of escorting, and very proud to be a member. Mm-hmm. And now I'm active. Well, even if over to Bath VA, I'm very active over there.
Are you
veterans activities.
At our local Veterans Hospital?
Right, Bath VA.
Mm-hmm.
And we have parties once a month over there for the women patients with gifts and refreshments. And just like a social hour.
So you have a local ladies'
Well, I've been over to Bath about 18 years having these parties
Mm-hmm.
and activities. In fact, I'm on the executive board over there. And, Elmira, 16 years ago, I was recruiting for the Women Army Corps membership and also the American Legion. I was on membership. Mm-hmm. And I have close to 400 names of the women veterans in the area. It started out as Chemung County. I have 6 counties now that the women come from. Not all at one time, but bi-monthly we have a luncheon, and we have 35 to 40 as a rule there. We do all kinds of volunteer work, and
What are the 6 counties? You cover, of course, our county, Chemung.
Chemung, Tioga, Schuyler.
Schuyler.
Can't think of all.
Steuben, I
Steuben.
presume.
Yeah, they come from Broome County.
Broome,
Mhm.
down by Binghamton.
Yeah, what's Hornell in?
Hornell's in Steuben.
Steuben.
Yeah,
So,
is there Pennsylvania County?
yeah, there's Pennsylvania. We have,
Probably Bradford, which is on our border.
yes.
Bradford, that would be the 6th.
And then I keep
That's a large area.
I have a file to home of all the women that's ever joined us, those that are deceased that I know of,
Mm-hmm.
and those that attend every luncheon.
Well, tell us some more about your personal experience in Army life,
Well,
like the food and the conditions you did tell us about going to the latrines.
Well,
but the food and the conditions you lived under, and well, with the exception of these signs in town about soldiers, how you
That was
how you related to like maybe the male portion of the Army.
we worked with the males. We all worked together
Yeah, I
as a
thought you
unit.
did. Mm-hmm.
And while at Aberdeen, I was a drill sergeant. I taught calisthenics, and we were a model detachment. And I worked on the heavy artillery range. I had charge of a warehouse. I used to drive trucks up to 2.5 ton. Sometimes I couldn't reach the pedals. In fact, my first assignment on a 2-ton truck, I was out on the highway. They put pillows at my back and underneath my feet. And in fact, they'd lift me up, and I did not know how to double clutch. So I had to stop somebody to show me how to double clutch. But after 3 days, we had a birthday party. It was a first year anniversary. Mm-hmm. And we used to do a lot of parades. And
So you said your original training was at the college.
Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And then the administrative training was at Conway State Teacher College.
Did you get a chance to put that to use?
Yes. I was in procedure auditing at the proving grounds. Nobody could tell me where I could go or what I couldn't do. There was 5 of us, and we went into rooms or anything. If just because you was a colonel and you told me I couldn't come in and do it, I'd sit down and make a phone call to my boss, and I'd do what I went in to do.
So you had considerable authority.
Right.
Did you keep a diary at all?
Yeah, I kept it. Well, this one here is most of this book
Your
here.
scrapbook that you brought with us, your pictures and diary. That's pretty
So
great.
we had a lot of good times. They used to get bad at us when we went into Baltimore or someplace. You had to show your ID, and the women in uniform didn't have to show their ID because they were 21 to get in at that time.
Your biographical form indicates that you earned various medals and citations, Good Conduct Medal, Meritorious Unit Emblem, WAC Service Medal, American Campaign Medal, and World War II Victory Medal. Were they awarded under special circumstances?
Yes.
Were they?
Yeah, after you got out, you applied. You had to take it, send their discharge, and I don't know where it was, where the headquarters was, and they'd check and send the medals to you. In fact, at home I have them on the wall.
Well, sure.
I have them on my national WAC uniform too.
So, well, when you were in you were in the United States, and you were able to keep in touch with family and friends.
Oh yes. In fact, my mother and father came to Aberdeen. They ate in our mess hall, and they went places where they was not supposed to. But this captain that used to be from Battle Creek, Michigan, he's getting the car. So I rode in the back of the truck, and they rode up in front for the ammunition things.
Now, where was your husband assigned during this period?
He was over in Germany.
He was in Germany. Could you keep in
He
touch
was-
with him? Or?
Right. He got injured over there.
He did.
He had shrapnel. Yeah, I kept in touch with him. In fact, we got along wonderful. And it seemed like wherever we went, like this picture right here, it was taken in Battle Creek. First thing I knew, it was in one of the buildings. There was a larger picture of us.
Yeah, you were both from Battle Creek, Michigan, then,
Right.
where you were born.
Oh, he was from Illinois. But no, in fact, he got drafted, and he went to the draft board to get permission to bring his wife home to Elmira to her folks. We were not married at the time. We were going to wait until he got out of the service, so we eloped. And we dated back to June, but then in January he got drafted anyway.
So that was in what 42, was it?
That would be 42.
Be 42.
Yeah, he went in January in 42, I think it was. Yeah, I went to San Antonio, Texas, and I made the rounds with him. So
You traveled quite a bit trying to
I've traveled every state in the nation
Have you?
through that and the Women Army Corps, conventions like that. No, at Aberdeen, we were at the 44th Ordnance where we lived. And we used to get in cars, the fellows, they'd loan us their cars so we could drive into our barracks, because that was about a half mile to where we lived. And then we could not hitchhike. That was a no-no. But we buy one bus ticket in Aberdeen, and everybody picked us up. Took us into Aberdeen, but we'd had to, or into Baltimore, and then we'd have to have a ticket to come home.
So the people in the location near the base camp were very friendly
Right.
to you, women, and that were WACs.
There was as many civilians there as it was
Did they
military.
work on the base too?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, I worked out in heavy artillery, and one day we got into quite a discussion. This lieutenant I worked for, and come to find out he was from Battle Creek, Michigan also. So then we had one of our captains, Captain Nash. She married a captain from, I don't know, anyway. She went over to Germany. If you remember back this Hess Jewel case, They stole all the jewels and everything. She was involved. So, in fact, I used to be a sort of a go-between between her and a lieutenant she was going with now in Aberdeen. I was on the inside of quite a few things.
So you adapted very well then to service life.
I loved it.
Yes.
I'm just sorry I didn't stay in
Yeah,
and retired.
Uh-huh.
Because I go to conventions and all these gals is retired and got that good income coming.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I'd stayed in and retired because I loved it.
Well, your decision to come out was because of your husband?
Anyway, he got discharged, so I got out.
Was he discharged because of his injuries, or?
Right. Mm-hmm. No, so.
How did you arrive in Elmira then?
Well, my father was a salesman on the road, and he was gone from home so much. And so my mother said one day to him, wherever you are, I'm willing to come. So Gordon Shealy, the greenhouse of florists over on Hudson Street, says, I have an apartment you can have if you get your wife here. So a neighbor offered to bring my mother here in a trailer for $60, whatever he could get on this trailer.
What year was this?
I don't know, it was in 30s must be. Yeah, it had to be because about 37. Yeah.
So you lived here when you enlisted?
Yes.
You said you were working at.
Yeah, I lived here. And then my two sisters came here and my mother came on the thing. I've been here ever since because my father was living in this area. My mother got real active in church work.
So you came out of the service then in 1945, but you wish you stayed in.
I wish
Yeah.
I'd stayed in for all the benefits. I still contact some of the ladies, but most of them have gone that I really knew.
Age-wise, yeah.
Mhm.
So then you had to adjust back to civilian life.
Right.
How
And
did
we
that
went
go?
back. We went back out to Battle Creek, Michigan. Then
Oh, you did go out to
Yeah.
Battle Creek, Michigan. Did you stay
And,
there then?
I stayed there for 4 years. In fact, I think the week I got out of the service was the week I got pregnant for my son.
Okay.
And when he was probably 4.5 years old, my folks talked me into coming to Elmira, so my mother could more or less take care of him. So I said, "You can't work if I come home." So I came to Elmira then. So he could start school in Elmira.
All right. Now, did you come with your husband?
No, we were divorced.
You were divorced by then.
Yeah.
So did you, now you remarried, obviously. And,
After 16 years, I dated this bachelor. I thought he's a good time, Joe. Never want to get married. And we've been married 38 years.
Pretty good record. You just have the one son then?
Just the one son.
And his name is
Michael Blair.
Michael Blair.
He lived in Florida. He retired from the police department there after 32 years, and he couldn't get his mother to move there. So he moved up here, lived down in Millerton. He bought 10 acres of land. Just loves it up here. He's a retired policeman.
In Millerton, Pennsylvania.
Right on the borderline of Lawrenceville, Millerton. But he just loves it up here. He's retired.
Well, and you're happy to have him back close.
Right. Then I have a granddaughter with 2 great-grandsons in Elkland. And then I have a granddaughter in Michigan. Battle Creek's got twin girls, so that's my family.
What are your best memories of the service?
Well, the good fellowships and the things we went to do. We did a lot of activities. We went to a lot of parades, and we had parties on there. And then we used to. We lived right on Chesapeake Bay, and we had our own private beach. And
That was nice.
we go down there. Of course, you were not supposed to date officers, but one of our gals married one of the head of Aberdeen Proving Ground. But see, at that time, we could take our uniforms off. We'd go into Baltimore, and 2 of us would get a room, and 4 or 5 of us would show up. take off our uniforms, go out as civilians.
Well, civilians, huh?
But no, it was a good fellowship, and like I said, we worked 24 hours a day. There was nothing the girls didn't do. Test driving tanks. Aberdeen was a test place. And the heavy artillery, the time fuses, I had worked on them at the Eclipse. Then I got up to Aberdeen, and here they were testing them.
Yes, they were proving grounds. Weren't they?
Right, it was a proving ground.
weren't they? Yes.
Yeah, they proved everything, tanks, trucks. I remember one time we had a foreign officer came, and he was late in arriving, so I had to get him to the group where he was supposed to be.
Now, where was he from?
I don't know.
Well, you
He
said,
couldn't speak English.
okay.
And anyway, I had this vehicle I hadn't driven before, and I almost went through a building instead of going reverse. I went forward. I don't remember where he was now.
Sometimes you just had to teach yourself, then, like driving.
Well, all the vehicles, they got a panel right on the front.
Do they
Tells you how to
That
drive.
gives you instructions?
Well, the panel is right there.
Oh, okay.
And when I took my license for my test for driving, I had taken a 2.5-ton truck. I didn't get very far when the instructor says, "That's far enough." I said, "No, I got to know how to back up," and like that. He was glad to get rid of me. I only weighed 105 pounds then. So,
And how tall were you?
4'11" and a
I was
half.
just gonna
They
say.
pulled up my bangs and said 5 foot. And when I went in the service, I was 98 pounds. And you had to, 95, you had to be 100 pounds to get in. So I drank water and ate bananas. Then I
To
went
put your
back.
weight up to.
So,
So you were really strongly motivated to go in.
oh yes,
Yeah, you sure did.
I just loved every bit of it. I had the other day, of course I've always been active in bowling and sports and like that. And there's one woman, she was very unhappy that her daughter wanted to join the Army, so she came to me. I said, well, let me put it like this. I would never advise anybody to join the service, but I do it 100% myself, and I do it over and over again. The other day she says, Louise, 24 years ago, you gave me advice about my daughter. She loved it. Get educated and everything. Best thing that ever happened to her. So,
Did she made a career out of it then?
she's still in.
Still in.
Yeah.
How do you think your service experience affected your civilian life afterwards?
Well,
What
it helped-
impact it had on it?
Well, I don't know exactly how to say it, but I have all kinds of respect for everybody in the service, men and women. And since I've been out, I get telephone calls questioning things about the service and veterans. I've been very active in Veterans Affairs, Chemung County Veterans Office, the State Veterans Office, Mike Lehman and Bob Bly, and I'm pretty good on all the veterans things, trying to keep up with them. I'm not young like I used to be, but
You had a lot of training and learning
Yes, I
experiences
did.
in the service.
Yeah.
Do you think you put some of those to use in
Yes, I-
post-war times?
yes, it helped me a lot. I'm still, like I say, active in Veterans Affairs and keep up.
Did you go to work at all after?
Yeah, service.
Mm-hmm.
No, not right then. I had to have my son.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went to work for Fort Custer at the VA office. I worked out there.
You were. Oh.
Now, first I went to Kriski's 5 and 10 in Battle Creek, Michigan. I had 21 employees under me.
Mm-hmm.
They talked me into being manager. And then they put me in there to fire some girls, and I wouldn't fire them because I didn't know what I was doing, and they helped me. And then I was bowling, and a friend of mine had charge of civil service out to Fort Custer. So I went out there and got in the kitchen food thing, and they were going to put me in the finance department. But then I came to Elmira. So everything I've done has been connected with the veterans one way or another.
So what year did you arrive in Elmira now?
What?
What year did you arrive here in Elmira after the service?
Yes, I came here now, I'm 45.
45. And you've been here ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, anything to do with veterans, men and women, and the service did help me out a lot in learning things and procedures and friendship. There was people in civilian life you won't associate with, and there's people in the service. You pick your friends regardless, but they've never been as close as the women in the service. You lived together in barracks. You had to learn instructions and get along with people. I just loved cadre, anything like that. And then you were not supposed to have a 2-day leave and a 3-day leave together. I always got them. But if somebody else wanted to do something, I do it for them. If there's something special going on and I was supposed to be, I wouldn't take it. So when I wanted time off, I always managed.
So there's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of solid friendships.
Oh, yes.
Bonding with the others.
Oh yes, you never in civilian life, I shouldn't say it, but you were never bonded or had as close friends. Everybody's problems was everybody else. And then we were all angels in the service. You didn't go to mess halls like that after night, but we used to go to some of the fellows' mess halls, maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night. We'd go out in the kitchen to eat with no lights on or anything. They'd invite us over. We do the same in our detachment.
It's just like, you mean a social get-together.
Just social get-together, something you want to do, when you're young, well, why not try it?
How was the food in the service then?
What?
How was food in the service?
Ours
then?
was very good. We have no complaints. The cook lived in our barracks. But all the food is given to all the companies and like that. Could be the same food, but it's how they prepare them.
So the chef's pretty important.
Mm-hmm. It's how they put them together. Of course, like I said, we had a lot of dignitaries from Washington come down to see how the Women Army Corps was doing and come down for inspection. So it was really nice. I loved it.
It's wonderful that you have such great, positive memories of those experiences.
But nowadays I go like to Fort McClellan, Alabama. Everything's co-ed. And you get in the mess hall. You have your choice of what you want to eat. You see the women telling the men what to do. And cadre, like it's so much different. You had nice places to live now. But we had barracks.
You don't have to go through the mud to the latrines and back to clean your shoes.
We had all that experience.
It was really rustic, wasn't it?
It was, but it was fun. Everybody had to do it. And then when it was from Fort Oglethorpe, we had a lot of the women, they got shipped overseas. But as long as they had their quota, you didn't have to go. And I heard you had to climb the side of the ship, going up. So I hate water. So I backed out then. And I got by without going.
Was that a voluntary thing?
No, they had to, if they needed 200 people, you had to have 200 out of your detachment, or 200.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't have it, they could make you go. And then at Aberdeen, they had another enlistment for overseas. It was about the time my husband was coming back. We would have passed each other on the ship. I should have gone. As my first husband.
Hindsight, huh?
But, it was a wonderful life. I'd do it all over again myself. Except nowadays you have more education, more training, and you have a lot of things to benefit, which we did not have.
You can see a big difference then, can't you?
Oh, right. It's different as day as night. Yeah. But we used to, something else we're not supposed to do, but you couldn't get off the post on certain times. So when the fellows would come in or somebody get a car, we'd get in the trunk of the car, put the trunk down, hold it down until we got off base.
You did manage to have a pretty good time.
Oh, yes, I did. I got discharged from Fort Dix. in Fort Dix, New Jersey. So at the time, you were quarantined for the 3 or 4 days, I don't know how many, or a week. We was at Fort Dix.
Before you could leave?
You couldn't get off the base.
Oh, okay.
But the MPs knew us. So sometimes we'd lay down in the back seat of a car and put a blanket over. They'd wave you on through. Or you get in the trunk, you got one way or the other. Oh, I could tell you quite a few things that.
You're going to tell me you never were caught.
Well, when we worked, we worked. And when we played, we played. So, but you had to do things together. We had one woman, she was can't think of her name. She lied her name to get in. And she used to sing that Ave Maria. She was a celebrity. And finally they found her in the service, so they made her get out.
She was in illegally, you're telling me.
You know, because she didn't want to keep up with her being a celebrity. And her, what is it when they call them, when they have their big day, when they're announced out to the public? I can't think what it is, but she was a celebrity. We had all kinds of people, but we had a lot of memories to remember.
Yes.
My scrapbook here tells you an awful lot. We went through the gas chambers, and we had that in basic.
Where was that?
We did that at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
That was part of your training back then?
Yeah, going through the gas chamber. So. You know, then we used to, there used to be my father was out one night and they were running down the women in the service because it was only in there for what they get out of the men. And he says, do you know anybody who's in the service? No, but we know what they do. My father says, my daughter's in. Have you ever been to where they eat, where they live? No, my father says, well, we have. They never said another word. And so they met, I don't know whether you know Lyman Wright in Elmira. Well,
Yes.
He was stationed there too. So every other weekend he drove back to Elmira from Aberdeen. And so he'd bring about 5 of us. We'd all chip in on the gas, get back by Reveille, get back by 6 o'clock Monday morning.
Quick weekend trip home.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd bring about 5 of us home. Anybody wanted to that could fit in his car.
Well, it meant you kept in touch close with your family and friends back
Right.
here then.
Right. No, I worked at the Eclipse, and when I went, they had a big party for me up to the Hats Tavern's not there anymore.
Yes. Was one
But they had a big party up there, a surprise party for me. A lot of fun. But,
Eclipse was one of our wartime industries
right.
locally. Famous for making the Norden
Right.
bomb sight, I think.
I know, but I know they made time fuses and like
Yes.
that. In fact, I came back here, I worked for the Army Ordnance
Here,
here in Elmira.
at the
Army Ordnance.
was that at the holding point or?
No, that
where
was,
that?
they had a building by Ward of France.
Okay.
And I had 6 inspectors that I worked for. And so there was one down in Binghamton. They had 2 girls, or they had a girl down there, but somebody wanted vacation. So I went there for 2 weeks. And the inspector that I worked for told his daughter. She described me to a T. Says I used to be her supervisor at the Eclipse. It was a small world. She come to see me then. Every time I come home on leave or something, we'd have a group together. Adley Sakati and a group of them, we'd always get together and have a card game. I always knew how to play cards, how to win. That's all I knew. I couldn't play cards. They always accused me of cheating. But
So you kept a whole big scrapbook here of
these were from years.
your years of service and post-war service, apparently.
Right.
A lot of history
When we
in
were
here.
sworn in, See, there's some right there where the gas drill went through. These were our barracks back then we lived in, at Fort Oglethorpe. We had to go clear down in here through the mud flats to get. There was a ball game. We had a ball team. We used to play ball. We used to sing around the piano in the playroom.
Your memories of a lot of good times,
Oh,
even though it was
the more I
wartime.
have to look at these things to think some. There's one of those WAC reviews. We did a lot of reviewing. You see, the barracks aren't like they are nowadays.
No.
This here is Conway State Teachers College. Our beautiful uniform. Then there was someone from the thing. Here's a card there from my dad,
Postcard from home.
from my father. Branch number 3, let's see then. These were Aberdeen approved goals. There we are in review
I
again.
see you in a lot of it.
We do a lot of reviews. It was showtime. We were a show troupe.
Now that means what? You were a show troupe?
We
You said
danced, we
you
went to parties, we sang and entertained, and they had some
okay.
program.
Were would you go? USOs or certain?
Wherever, and then maybe in the city or right
Oh, in
on the
city?
camp.
Okay.
And this one here is Aberdeen Improving. Now, see, we had a lot of these, the Colonel Hobby. She's one of the first colonels that we had. And
This was out of your unit?
no, these
No,
here
wasn't.
these people here came from Washington.
Washington. because
Came
you
from
were-
Washington for reviewing and check the things. This is the 44 ordinances here where we did all of our reviews. There's some of us girls. The good old barracks, we had to wash windows then, build the fires, and let's see if I got
Now, build fires was to keep in the barracks?
in the barracks.
To keep you
We
warm.
had, Mary.
That was
You-
your
that was
fuel.
KP. That was KP duty part
Oh,
of it.
boy.
Yeah, and then there's a Jeep. There I am working on heavy artillery.
Heavy artillery.
This here's one of our parties. There they are in the rifle. We had to, for rifles, test them down there. Then there's a car I drove a lot. There's my Jeep.
There's your Jeep.
Oh, that Jeep, that's when I could turn around on a dime. I got turned in several
It was
times.
easier than the 2-ton truck.
Oh. I got turned in a couple times. Well, there was 5 of us as auditors on the proving ground, and you was only supposed to have 4 in the Jeep. I always had 5. And we had this one captain. He turned me in because I did not salute him. He said, well, you're going to get busted. So I just told my captain who was in charge of me, continue doing what you're doing. You're balled out. Go on, do what you were doing.
So there was no other punishment.
No. Well, I knew what I was getting. Here's some of the parties we had. This is Baltimore. I won the 2 o'clock club. Here we girls are.
There's the girls having a good time.
Yeah, that was at the Silver Dollar in Baltimore. And we used to have a lot of fun. We used to travel together. Here I got a lot of the girls' names. See, there's just a little bit of everything there.
Well, it certainly chronicled your whole service life. It's wonderful to have
Aberdeen Proving.
kept things like this.
Now this officer here, and that's her name, Kathleen Nash. She was the one that got involved with that Hess Jewel case over in Germany. They got let out. And then McClutchan, she was the one, some of the girls did get pregnant. And she had the contacts in Baltimore. But she went to borrow money from the wrong person and they turned her in. So they let her go.
But you were the Aberdeen, the headline is Aberdeen welcomes
Right,
the WACs.
right.
So you were the first group,
We were the second group in.
second group in.
Yeah. So, these are some of the things that we did. In a Jeep. Oh, I just love to ride that Jeep.
Aberdeen guns is the headline.
Tested big guns. I worked there on the heavy artillery range. I loved it.
Did
I mean, I had control over the warehouse and like that. And some of these soldiers, they didn't like the idea.
something just slipped out there.
They didn't like the idea of having a woman be a boss.
So, this was the men.
Yeah, they didn't like to have a woman being their boss.
Well, did they make it difficult for you?
No, I just insisted they do it, or if they didn't do it, well, I said, well, so-and-so didn't do it.
Because you were in charge.
This woman here, she was the most photogenic in the thing, and so she was all over having her picture taken.
She was part of your unit, though?
In fact, she was in the same barracks I was in. Where you would see a lot of things that we did. There's, see, that was when the WAC WAA, see. There's one of our singing. He was our pinup boy.
So the first name was the WACs
Women Army Auxiliary.
And what made them change the...
Because we were not in the regular army.
Right.
It was a Women Army Auxiliary. And then in August 43, we had a chance to get out. Get out in civilian life, or join the Women Army Corps.
Or become officially part of the real
Right.
army. And that's when they changed.
Right. And so we had 600 women at Aberdeen, and I think 6 of them decided not to go into the regular army, and all 6 of them came back in.
They did. Isn't that something for the record?
Right. We were real strong there. But this one right here, that's the one that got everybody. That's in Battle Creek, Michigan. So.
Well, you certainly covered a lot of your experiences. Is there anything else you think you should?
I couldn't even
Let us
begin to
know.
tell you a lot of things. That's all I can think of just
A lot of
about right
memories,
now.
isn't it?
And I just loved it. No, I was a drill sergeant. I always did everything right. But I had these change steps and all like this. We had another way of doing it. And sometimes I forget and give the wrong command right in a parade, which was a no-no. But we had a lot of fun. I mean, we were parading, we had drill sergeants, we did things the way we should and we shouldn't. Just kept things going, keep people interested. We had a lot of wonderful time.
But basically, did the male Army Corps accept you?
They didn't have any choice.
Okay.
There's still some people this day won't accept women in service. We went to, I forget now where the convention was. And the department commander would not accept women, veterans in service. And there must have been at least 50 of us there. So he'd been warned. All he had to say was veterans. If he wanted to say gentlemen, he had to say ladies. But veterans would cover all of us. So he'd been tipped off. He had to say it. To be seated. And all of a sudden, he wouldn't say either one. So 50 of us, we stood up. We stayed right up there. We wouldn't sit down until he came up, veterans. But, there's still some men that they don't approve of women being in the service today. In fact, I was in the Chemung County Veterans Council. I won't reveal his name, but he couldn't stand women. It was regarding Woodlawn Cemetery, National Cemetery, and I was on that, and he just completely ignored me. But I didn't ignore him.
But the women's veterans are as eligible as the male veterans.
Oh, yes,
For
we're
burial
veterans.
in the National Cemetery.
I think 1977. They all came under Army, not women or anything. Oh, no, you get 100% disability and VA benefits. And
You never had any injuries that you mentioned
No.
in service?
No, thank goodness. No, and we had a very good outfit. Our commander.
Who was?
If you went to, Lieutenant Nash was one of them. Can't remember, but anyway, when you left post for night out or weekend, you had to go through inspection before you left. And if you had your stockings, that's when we had, runs in the back of the stocking. If you had them, your stockings. Seams.
Yeah.
If you had them turned
Oh.
inside out, you didn't get to go out. They'd stop you right there and then. And you could always tell a woman from Aberdeen. Our skirts had to be a certain length. And whenever you'd see us, we'd always have our hats on right. We'd have our jackets all buttoned, not just hanging. We were well known for the way that they kept us and made us do.
So you had kind of an outstanding reputation.
We did.
You said you brought a hat with you.
I got my, I couldn't find it when I was in the service. In fact, my uniform that I had in the service is up to Big Flats Museum.
Oh, is it?
My whole uniform. This one here is my.
This is your National Honor Guard.
This is my
current.
national,
This is
yeah.
what you would wear now.
Yeah,
to
this
the
is what I wear
convention,
now with the uniform.
WAC vets.
Mhm. Yeah, we're a pretty nice looking outfit. I'm a little on the heavy side, but but that's the color and things that we wear for that.
Well, you had an outfit that you took a lot of pride in here.
Right, I'm in every parade around here. In fact, the 26th of May, I'm going to be over to Corning in the parade.
Is that for Memorial?
Memorial Day.
Mhm.
They say they want to have a bus or something anyway for World War II women veterans. I don't think there's enough there, but my husband always takes me in the car, drives me, and I have a sign on the outside the car with the Women Army, National Honor Guard. And we usually have about 3 or 4 cars in the parade with women veterans, and we have flags and signs on the car.
Was this husband in the Army, in the service?
No, he worked for the Navy. He did that out in California.
He's a Navy employee.
Yeah, he was with the government, but down in the service. So, but he's active in all the veterans things. They don't know whether he's in the service or not because he's involved with everything that I am. Very good-hearted. Takes me every place. So, I'm proud of this year National Honor Guard. Seeing there's only 40 of us in
When
the.
was that established, Louise? Do you know?
Oh, it's been 25 years. I've been on it for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have slash marks on my jacket. If you see me in the parade, you'll see my uniform. So
Well, I can look forward to that.
people say, I see you in the parade. It can't be a parade without you. I can't walk, but I drive and
Mm-hmm.
go to all the free dinners and things afterwards, all the veterans organizations. So.
What do you call your regional organization that you have?
The women
Yeah,
veterans?
what do you call it?
We are not organized.
You're
We're not organized at all. It's a friendly get-together.
Okay.
And it's a hobby of mine. But I have committees. Each time, of course, I'm on all the committees, but I have a committee, whether it's from Bath or Corning or Owego.
Any of
or
the
Waverly.
6 counties?
Well, anybody. It makes no difference where they come from.
Mhm.
But a group will get together, they plan the meal, what they want to eat. We usually go at the Holiday Inn. And we always have program speakers of interest. Everybody pays for their own meal, except the guest speaker. And then we usually give them their meal and a little gift. And it's just a friendly get-together, just like when you go out for lunch someplace with a group.
That's a nice custom to
And then
continue.
some of the girls have met people at our group that they went in service with. In fact, this Helena Moran that just died, their name Morel, one of the girls told me the other day we went to service together. She'd been over to Bath, not too long, but and we have women over there at Bath. They've been, in fact, we had one at one time was in World War I. Of course, she's been gone now a long time. We get a big enjoyment going to Bath, seeing the women veterans, and my husband usually goes along too, except he goes and visits the men. And as long as we can keep active in veterans activities and affairs, we enjoy it.
Well, you certainly have shared. I thank you for sharing all your memories of your service experience.
Well, that's just a few.
As a post-war civilian.
That's a few of them.
Have to compliment you on keeping so active with your lady veterans, locally and nationally.
Mm-hmm. Well, I received the a national award once at the Women Army Corps Convention for outstanding work and activities. I've also been a chairman and members at large. That's the ones that has no chapters in their area. I've been in charge of that, national. I've had, a long time ago, we had articles in the paper about members at large. And I couldn't think how big the United States was. But they'd send me articles, and sometimes we'd have 2 pages of articles the members at large had written and put in the paper. When I go to a convention, I feel right to home. I know so many of them. Of course, the younger ones I don't, but the other ones, it's something.
So you see a lot of familiar faces when you do go to.
Not anymore.
Not so much anymore, unfortunately.
No. Time
has changed that.
Yeah, it sure does. No, it's you keep up on things, but
Well, your comparison of the time you were in the service and the current.
oh, there's no difference. Oh, I mean, there's so much difference, just like day is night.
And the
many years
benefits,
of work-
as you point out, the benefits are
The
multiple,
benefits,
yeah.
we didn't have any of those benefits. When I was in, when you got out of service, you had to go to college. You had to go within 2 years. I didn't take
Was the
advantage,
GI Bill.
but I didn't take advantage. I thought, well, if I have a child,
Yes.
they can take advantage of it. But that was a no-no after 2 years. And but now, a lot of these people go in just for the education,
Yes, they do.
the college degrees and like that. We had nothing like that when we
Financial
went.
benefits now.
We had nothing like that.
Well, time does bring change.
Yeah, I think we were getting $21 a month when we went in.
21 a month.
And then my husband, I was getting the allowance from him. That was $50 a month.
That was the living allowance
Right.
for you, for a
Mhm. But I
spouse.
still got it even though I was
Mhm.
in the service. Oh, how times have changed. But they don't have any better times than we had. We lived within our means, and we had good times.
Yes, you certainly did. You have such good memories of that experience.
In fact, one girl taught me how to knit. She bought my yarn for me out of Philly. 100% virgin wool. Well, afterwards, I knit so tight you couldn't even get into the sweater. Afterwards, I found out I was just paying her transportation back and forth from Philly for folks. It was just like a Red Heart yarn, cheap yarn. I didn't know the difference, but. And we had one girl, Vasile Jadinsky from Fremont, Ohio, a Polish girl. And she wouldn't do anything she didn't have to do. So my folks had invited her home for Christmas one year, and she wouldn't come. Just before I got ready to go, she said, "Louise, can I go with you?" So I said, "Sure." So I called my folks. My folks got couple little gifts for her. And at the breakfast table, she cried like a baby. We couldn't figure out why. It's the first time in my life I ever received a gift at Christmas. My folks always put $25 underneath the dinner plate. She said, we always had money underneath the plate, but no gifts unwrapped like you folks are doing. But afterwards, she got so that she did things she didn't have to do, relieve people. And I said, Lucille, all you got to do things you don't have to do. Help others out.
Well, service brings people of various backgrounds together, doesn't it?
Sure does. We had one girl, she looked like a tomboy, but we had a song was AR 3540, get in the line of duty anyway. They couldn't do anything about her because she would never leave the barracks, but she always shined her shoes. For a quarter, she shined all of her shoes, bees. And you couldn't do anything with her. I mean, you couldn't, was it recommend her, or take anything away from her? Because she didn't do anything. And on our clothes, like I was talking about our clothes, we had free alterations. So if you didn't have your uniform fitting you right.
There was someone who did this for you on the base?
On the base. Yeah, it was part of the group. No, the officers made sure of that.
How soon did you make sergeant?
Probably a year and a half, 2 years, year and a half. I was in my procedure audit team. That it was just like a warrant officer. If I'd taken the test in the end, I could have become a warrant officer. And my husband was a private overseas. And he couldn't come home with me being a sergeant. So he got sergeant rating a week before he came home.
And you were both equal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I certainly appreciate you coming in and sharing all this.
Yeah, it brings
history,
back
your
memories. It
and
brings back
experiences
memories.
with us, Louise. They're going to be documented for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. And I thank you very much. I know that you're going to share your scrapbook with our archivist and maybe leave some memories, some documents or photos.
Yeah, there might be
with
some
us.
pictures are in there or something.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
I probably broke your camera though.
Just about to run out. I don't know if it's off or.